guys, Dave here from JDH Reptiles. Today we're going to talk about humidity concerns. Something I see on Facebook, Instagram a lot. People who have problems with stuck shed. And don't get me wrong, I do as well from time to time. But if you're in one of the cold weather states like I am here in Michigan, that time of year is coming where you're going to have the heat on in your house. It's going to dry the air out. And I'm going to give you my what works for me and what I recommend to do to help bump the humidity up and to hopefully help reduce the problem with stuck sheds through the winter. So first of all, shedding issues typically start with lack of humidity. Really, it's not always just the humidity in the enclosure. Now, obviously the humidity in the enclosure where the animals at is what is causing the issue. But a lot of people think that, grabbing a spray bottle and spraying down the enclosure, spraying down the, the substrate is what you should be doing. And really, it's a bigger problem than that. A lot of it comes to the humidity in the room that the enclosure is in. So what we do to tackle that, I'm going to show you really quick here, is I have this right here. This is a Vornado Humidifier. It's a 4-gallon system. You can buy this on Amazon. I want to say it's about $120, somewhere right around there. And this will help if you have a snake room like I do. This will help with keeping the humidity up high or high enough to battle the fact that you have the heat from your house and your furnace heating the room. So even if you don't have a snake room, you have your animals in a room, whether it be a bedroom, living room, whatever the case may be, that is where your issues arise, is the humidity in that room. So you don't have to tackle the humidity throughout the entire house unless you have your animals scattered all throughout the house. It's really just tackling the humidity issue you have in the room that all your enclosures or your racks are in. So like I said, we use the Vornado. Each tub holds 2 gallons of water. In the winter, this thing is running 24 hours a day. And we'll go through 2 gallons of water about every 2 days. So typically every other day when I come down here, check on everything before I take off for the day. I'll have to take the tub off, run over to my sink, fill it back up, and drop it in. It works really well, and the way that I use it is I have it attached to a humidity reading thermostat, if that's what you want to call it, or whatever, hydrometer, probe, or whatever. And what I use is Inkbird. Like I said, I'll leave a description to an Amazon link for both the Vornado and for the Inkbird. What it does is it uses a probe. I stick it to the top of one of my racks, and then the cord just runs down to the thermostat, we'll call it, but it's not really a thermostat. And then from there, I set it to where I want, which I set mine for 55% humidity. And then I plug in the humidifier right into the same port that probe is on, and it automatically turns on and off as need be when the probe reads that the humidity has dropped. Now, I don't run this all year round. Here in Michigan, typically right around March or April, usually more like in April, the humidity rises enough down here that I can pull this out of the room. And I just brought back a week ago. So it's, it gets about 6 months where I don't use it. And then I got about 6 months where I do have to use it. I plugged it in the other day because the humidity was low. However, our temps rose outside. And by doing that, plus the moisture in the air, the humidity bumped back up in this room. And it hasn't rained since. So I probably could go a couple more weeks without it sitting in here. But now that I have it in here, I'm just going to leave it full of water, and it'll work as it needs to. So again, guys, when tackling humidity, shed issues, etc., remember, it's more about the bigger picture. Think less about the problems with the humidity in the tub. Just misting your enclosure, yeah, I mean, you can spike the humidity really quick, but it's going to fall just as quick. It's not going to stay high like you think it will. You can, bump the humidity 5 or 6 degrees by hitting some water over the like the hot spot of your tub, and I've done that too, and I do it sometimes. A lot of times, even in the wintertime with the humidifier going, if I see an animal is going to go into shed, or they've gone opaque, and then they're in that day or two afterwards where their eyes clear back out, I'll go in there with the mister and I'll hit the back of the tub where the heat is at to try and bump that humidity just to make that shed a little bit easier. But doing that doesn't really tackle the problem, which is the humidity in the room. Because if this room here is at 55-60% humidity, all the tubs will be at that or greater. So, some people will soak their coconut even more. We don't use coconut. We use the liners, the Reptisorb liners. And even with the liners, we still have no issues in the wintertime for the most part. I will say, we've got about 100 and, if you include the hatchlings now, we're probably around 150, 160 animals. I'll say maybe 10% of that will have stuck shed every couple months during the wintertime. But not typically. Every once in a while we'll get 2 or 3, and that's just whether it be like, especially on the lower levels where it's cooler, the humidity isn't as high. Those will usually be the ones I'll have the most problems with, or the very top of the racks. If you don't have something covering the top of the rack, you'll get a point where the humidity will escape easier, and that'll allow those top levels to have issues with shedding. So try and adjust your humidity in your room first, and if you can get the humidity up, making sure that the vents on top of your racks, maybe you don't have too many. Some people, like I get 20% the holes in the top of them for the humidity. I get like 20% for ventilation. And sometimes in the winter, I've never had to do it, but I know people who will take and they'll tape off, a section of that. That way, there's less ventilation. The people who put ventilation holes in their tubs, I think you're doing more harm than good. If you have a problem with too much moisture inside a tub, then, especially if you use a substrate, you have too much humidity and too much moisture in the tub to begin with. I don't put any holes in my tubs. I absolutely hate the idea of doing that. I'm not saying it can't work, especially if you're in a high humidity area like, Florida or anywhere down south. It might be helpful to do that to kind of lower the humidity. But like if you're up here in Michigan or anywhere where it gets cold, I think you're doing yourself a disservice and your animals by putting ventilation holes in the tubs, because you're not combating anything. Actually, I should say you're not helping anything. All you're doing is combating what you're trying to do. And the next half of the year, you've got issues with too much or not enough humidity. So try not to do it. I mean, like all these tubs, they're separated enough. And these all have ventilation in the top. Even the ones in the sea serpent racks. I mean, swing this around real quick. For instance, like these things here, there's a little room there. You got plenty of ventilation there. You don't have to worry about poking holes in the plastic. Now again, if you live in the south or somewhere where it's really humid, maybe you do, because you get too much buildup of humidity. But for the most part, like something like this, that's going to be because I have a water dish here and this animal has peed. So that's where you're going to get the humidity like that. But for the most part, if you have a clean enclosure and you don't have a problem with too much water or wet paper or wet substrate, you're not going to get all this moisture on top or on the front of the tub. So that's what I got for you guys today. Hopefully that helps out. Remember, it's less about the enclosure humidity, as in more about the room humidity. If you fix the humidity in the room, the enclosure humidity will increase. So keep that in mind. It's kind of like the whole work hard or work smarter, not harder thing. If I was to go around every day and try and mist 120 tubs, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of my time being consumed by doing that, where I could throw this Vornado on, let it do its thing throughout the day. Doesn't really soak up too much energy. I mean, our electric bill's high enough as it is. I don't notice a difference running this as opposed to not running this. So don't let that worry either. Again, if you run it on, keep on to call it a thermostat, but you know what I mean. If you run on one of those, it'll automatically shut on and off as he purposed to do so. But guys, I hope this video was helpful. If you did like it or it did give you a little bit of help, make sure to hit the like button, show a little support there. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'm going to give you a thumbs up to try and do that. Like to have you guys come back for the next video. We'll see you soon. Take care. And if you got any questions, go ahead and leave them down below. Anything I can do to help out, or if you'd like a video on other things that may be helpful for you, you can leave that comment down below as well too, and I'll try and get on doing videos for you to help you out with that as well. Thanks again. We'll take care, and we'll see you.